What's up, Yoon-Fam? It is I,
Mark Yoon.
In today's video, we're going to be expounding upon a few of the points that I made in my live stream this past Saturday, because I know a lot of people don't actually tune in for the live streams. There's a couple options I have with that some other YouTubers actually do, like breaking up subject by subject the live stream into separate videos and spreading them throughout the week. But I kind of feel like that's a little bit lazy and a little bit of a cop-out, so I'd rather just like take some of the points that we went over and actually lay more of my thoughts down on the subject. Just a way that we can actually talk about them more and get more in depth with them instead of me worrying about talking to the chat and things of that nature. It's a lot easier for me to talk, I guess, one-on-one in this kind of in this way, so that you get more of my ideas and more of what I'm actually wanting to put across than just putting out a recorded live stream. But with that being said, in today's video, we're actually going to go into a few of those details that I didn't get to talk about in the live stream about potentially the reasons why I think it may be better for them to hold off on a Season 3 and focus more on the game itself. Not even considering Soul Calibur 7, just talking about the game itself as it stands now and possibly whatever next-gen port that they actually eventually make. So first, what we're going to do here is I'm going to read this perfectly encapsulated comment by KittyMeowser Gaming, which you can find a link to her channel in the description box down below, in which she talks about just the points that I made in my video as kind of a response, and I did respond back to her, which I'm going to read, but I will stop along the way, expounding upon points that I think need more in-depth analysis and things that I think should be kind of just brought out a little bit more, just so we all have a better understanding of exactly where I'm coming from with these points. But without further ado, let's begin reading her comment. So she says, "It's definitely a conflicting topic. I agree with the fact that the character's data mined for Season Pass 3 wouldn't be as strong in comparison to the first two seasons. I myself personally would love to see Rock come back as being a legacy player like I am. It'd be curious to see what they would do with his style. But yeah, my biggest reason for even wanting a Season Pass 3, as lame and casual as I am about to sound, is for Create a Soul. There are still so many equipment pieces missing, and in my own personal opinion, Create a Soul still feels shallow, especially considering the modeling issues making some pieces useless to use appropriately. And the guys still have practically nothing. Now, if they were to throw in a bit of resources fixing Create a Soul issues, I'd be okay with that. Maybe make Create a Soul DLC for later down the line. My other thing is, though, if this is it for Soul Calibur 6, I kind of longevity for the game will have to wait until the next installment. Already the game has lost some of its popularity. I just hate to see the game fall off because of a hurry up and wait mentality. I understand there can still be a lot to do with the game, but for those of us who have been playing the game since beta, I'm afraid personally myself I will get burnt out way before we get a new installment, especially if I can't play well online with others. But it would be a nice compromise if they at least put some resources into polishing the game and fixing the netcode. As for a next-gen version, I'd only want it if it's currently and truly an improvement. Already playing on the Series X has got some things going on that makes it a bit better than playing on the Xbox One, and sorry that I wrote a story here." Which of course I always love when people go into detail in the comments, because it gives me a greater resource of things that I can actually talk about when I'm discussing these, so that's not a problem whatsoever. I am going to get into those points, but I'm going to read the follow-up from Ashton Bird and then myself, and then we're going to get into the points. So Ashton Bird says, "To KittyMeowser Gaming, I definitely agree with your thoughts, and don't worry about writing a story, because honestly I feel like I do that sometimes as well." Which a lot of my subscribers do, and I'm not mad at all. I actually enjoy those kind of comments. Even though they are a little bit harder to digest sometimes, it really gives me, like I said, a greater wealth of resource in order to answer the questions more effectively. So my response was, "I agree, which is why I think it's important for the longevity for them to use resources to fix the aspects of the game that aren't up to snuff. As a Create a Soul main, I wholly want that mode to give more, but as you stated, there are far better things to allocate resources to in that department than simply more stuff. You are definitely aware of the clipping issues, the locking behind certain characters, races, and genders, the floating, etc. Money will be well spent in this area, as anything new we wouldn't get necessarily would expect what we wanted to do in the first place. The biggest complaint I've heard thus far is the netcode. Even in our hour-long members play session after the stream, we were booted from the match and lobby several times. When it allowed us to play, the frame rate and lag were huge deterrents. I totally want more stuff, especially legacy characters, but at this point I'm worried about what the state they would be released in would be. I also agree that our current consoles, me on PlayStation 5 and you on Series X, boost the game in multiple areas. I feel as if the port with a 4K HDR support, better networking, and a DLC thus far included would currently increase the longevity of the game. So I'm going to touch on more of these points right now. I just wanted to go over the comment as a whole. But going into my first thing that I'm talking about is she was mentioning that she actually loves Create Soul and she wants more stuff for Create Soul. And I've heard this echoed throughout my community. It's not just her, but my problem is more stuff is not going to necessarily fix the problems that we have currently with Create Soul. So the biggest problem that we have right now with Create Soul is these are items that are ported over mostly from Soul Calibur 4 and 5. And a lot of these items have issues within the engine itself in this game. If we're not even talking about like problems that we didn't have from 5, there's major clipping issues. There's issues where certain pieces you can't even be worn together. They just won't allow it. Certain genders and races lock certain pieces behind them, which makes certain characters feel bare bones, such as the males that she was talking about. But I feel like if we actually had a universal allotment for those kind of character pieces, then it would make the men seem like they have more. Just because of the fact that they can actually be open to using everything that everyone else uses. Same thing goes with the lizard race and some of the other races like the Colossus race and things. They are almost a deterrent instead of an addition at this point. Like the demon race comes with their horns that aren't adjustable, so if you try to do anything cool with them, like you have to work around that, and that's the only way that you can actually get the tail on that character. So if you wanted to make a demon with a tail, then you're going to have to use those wings. And I think that's a little bit of a deterrent to actually even using those races to begin with. So my biggest issue would be use these resources to allocate towards Create Soul by going more in depth with like actually what they're going to be utilized for. Like allow all the races and all genders to use all products in the game. So the lizard race should be able to use everything everyone else does. But in order to have that capable, they need to spend some resources and time into fixing the floating issues, the clipping issues, and the issues with compatibility. The Create Soul is one of the biggest aspects of this game. It's been one of the biggest aspects of the franchise since the third iteration of the game, which is my personal favorite. And I know a lot of people rely heavily on using the creation system. I know some people don't as well, but for a lot of people this is a big issue. And I think the resources should be spent into fixing this and at least getting it up to par with Soul Calibur 5, because that creation engine was a lot better, before we move on to adding more stuff. Because like I said before, adding more stuff isn't necessarily going to fix the problem if we're just going to get more hats that float on top of your head and don't fit well. You know, more pieces that aren't compatible together and will like completely erase your progress when you're trying to create that. The limitations that we have imposed on us from sticker numbers and patterns. Certain things such as the undergarments or the accessories cannot be colored all of the time and cannot be layered with patterns, and that also gets in the way of creating like really good creations at times. And I know some of that is for censorship reasons, but I think they can focus on coming up with a way to actually give us everything without having to worry about all of that together. And I just think the money would be spent much better in this area. So I don't really want to spend too much time wasting on this video going into all three of the points, so I'm going to spread that out throughout the week on going into each individual topic directly. This one I just want to talk about the Create Soul aspect, and then we'll move on to the other aspects in later videos. But the biggest thing that I'm saying I'm advocating for here is more stuff is not necessarily going to fix the problem. You can give us everything that we've had from 5 and a bunch more stuff, and if they don't fit and they don't go well together, it's still going to prevent us from creating the characters and having the the customization options that we actually want for these characters, especially with the limitations placed on them by the races right now. The lizard race is probably the most bare bones in my opinion. Like, you can't do anything with their upper body except for place accessories. So even if you wanted to use like the lab coat, like I was trying to create Dr. Kurt Connors, which is the lizard from Spider-Man, and I couldn't even do so because you couldn't even put the lab coat on top of the character. There's just issues like that that really make me go back and play 5 when it comes to the character creation engine more. There's characters I've made in 5 that I definitely cannot recreate in 6, And it's not just because of the lack of the pieces, it's the lack of the accessibility and the options to do so. So the biggest reason why I'm saying when it comes to this Kratos off the bat, why they need to focus on this game with the resources as opposed to just creating another Season 3 is because we actually need to focus on this game first so that it becomes a playable game, which it is playable in its current state, but I just want it to be a good game before we move on to spending more time, just so we don't turn other people off, if that makes any sense to you. So tomorrow I'm going to go into the second point. And without further ado, guys, we're going to end the video here because I don't want it to run on too long. I want to thank you for watching and listening. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed here before and this is your first time here. We cover a lot of Soul Calibur news, information, and things of that nature. And we also cover the community a lot, so you always have your chances of being heard, just like KittyMeowser Gaming was today. With that being said, we're going to bring it to a close. And as always, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.